When the world felt so cruel and bleak, when the hole looked so dark and deep, hard as rock, cold as stone, I was scared, alone. Then your beat showed the way to you.
It
has been a year since the release of the Nintendo Switch 2. And even though it was enthusiastically reacted to during the initial direct release, when the price tags were revealed, a lot of people, including myself, got very frustrated by it. And for absolutely good reason.
Come back when you're a little, richer.
Thankfully, the prices did drop over time, and the overall anger of that initial controversy did somewhat die down over time. So for that reason, people were understandably apprehensive at interacting with games exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2 console, despite all its perks and promises. And with other controversies regarding modern gaming these days, in regards to the threat of the decline of physical media, and don't worry, the Nintendo Switch 2 does still allow you to use physical media with cartridges, don't worry. With skepticism over the quality of certain remakes and reboots, and with corporate manipulative stuff like microtransactions and whatnot, it can be understandable for people to be very apprehensive at picking up some modern games, which ultimately leads to the question, was the Nintendo Switch 2 even worth it? At the end of the day, you can have the console be as refined as you can be. You can have it with the smoothest frame rate possible as seen with the Sega Saturn. You can have it with the widest sense of accessibility with certain trends in consoles during different generations. But the ultimate question remains, are the games worth playing? If the games are not worth playing, why even bother get a console? Are there any worthwhile games on the Nintendo Switch 2? Yes. Yes, there are. And today on this channel, we're going to talk about two in particularly, which have been described as the best games you can get on the Nintendo Switch 2. Games that I've been having a lot of fun with when picking them up. Donkey Kong Bananza and Kirby Air Riders. These games have received high praise for making it worth buying the Nintendo Switch 2 console to get the exclusive perks of having the power necessary to maintain these smooth experiences. Let's talk about Donkey Kong Bananza first. I've been having a lot of fun with this one. This is the latest addition to the long-running Donkey Kong franchise, which, funnily enough, has existed alongside Mario. It's kind of funny in retrospect how the series initially started out being named after and being arguably about Donkey Kong, only for Mario to have his successful spin-off series, which basically became the main franchise. Then Donkey Kong became the spin-off of his own franchise when you think about it. But regardless, many of you watching this will have fond memories of playing the Donkey Kong Country games on the Super Nintendo Entertainment Systems, or perhaps you grew up in the Nintendo Wii generation like I did and enjoyed playing Donkey Kong Country Returns. Either way, at some point, you interacted with Donkey Kong, and that sense of nostalgia was right there. Interestingly enough, the redesign, which I'll get into more detail later, was foreshadowed in Illumination's adaptation of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I've made a review for that movie in the past. Feel free to click the card right there if you want to see more details on that. So people absolutely adored Super Mario Odyssey and its revolutionary take on the open world platforming structure. So the people at Nintendo decided to make something similar involving destructible environments. After this rather charming experiment with a Goomba with floating fists, they decided to apply this experiment with the character Donkey Kong. And what they got was something akin to solid gold, baby. The premise of Donkey Kong Bananza is that Donkey Kong and his organization of monkey miners, I guess, have visited Ingot Island to discover a brand new mineral substance, I guess? Large crystallized bananas that have banana juice inside of them. For obvious reasons, Donkey Kong is gravitated towards these bananas and intends to mine them up and eat them to his heart's content. That is until the evil Void Kong and his company intervenes and starts drilling into the planet core. Recovering from the chaos, Donkey Kong finds himself a little stone companion who has the ability to sing, and that singing power seems to destroy Void Kong's traps, apparently. There's some kind of supernatural superpower to this kind of singing, and Donkey Kong is encouraged by other characters to delve deeper into the planet's core, which consists of varying layers of different biomes and whatnot.
It's basically the kid-friendly version of Dante's Inferno.
As it is rumored that if you reach the core of this planet that they've been mining, you get your wish granted. Some unique planet that Donkey Kong and other characters somehow found themselves in. Eventually, when Donkey Kong encounters the first Elder, they manage to release the stone companion from stony shell imprisonment, and it turns out to be young Pauline all along. Yes, this appears to be a prequel to the majority of other Donkey Kong related games. Now, fans can initially find that rather confusing, but a simple explanation of how the woman we saw in the original Donkey Kong game is implied to be Pauline's grandmother, it starts to make more sense in retrospect. But anyway, now that young Pauline is set free from her stony imprisonment from Void Kong, she is now free to learn new songs, which through her supernatural vocals gives Donkey Kong grants Donkey Kong various Bananza power-up forms, which enables him to interact with the environments in various unique animal ways. And so, for the sake of adventure to stop Void Kong and to return home, Donkey Kong and Pauline venture to the planet core to save the day. And honestly, this game has been an absolute joy to play through. This might just very well be one of my favorite platformer games ever made. This platformer game, it's up there with other 3D platforming greats like Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Odyssey and the Jak and Daxter series and Sonic Adventure 2 and whatnot. The main attraction of this game is the fact that as Donkey Kong, you can destroy almost anything around you. Literally dig, pick up, throw, and yes, even surf on almost any various surfaces you encounter along the game. Now, there are some surfaces that you cannot destroy, and rightfully so, otherwise the game would quite frankly be unplayable. Think of it like the bedrock of the Minecraft games. But other than some specific surfaces that are mandatory for you to, not die, the game gives you the freedom to interact and pretty much destroy almost every other surface. Honestly, you'll be spending long periods of time just digging and digging and digging and digging and digging, and the game just keeps giving back to you. I absolutely adore it when video games reward your sense of curiosity, and the game just keeps on rewarding your sense of curiosity with different treasures, different fossils you can find in exchange for other items and whatnot, other bananas you can use to not only complete the collect-a-thon, but also every time you collect at least 5 bananas, you unlock a point to get more upgrades for you to more efficiently interact with the environment around you. I mean, honestly, I was having the time of my life by the time I got to the canyon level, where all I did for the majority of the time was just dig and dig and dig and dig and finding treasures and having that wondrous sense of childlike adventure. And the game is brilliantly designed for young and old, where it allows you to go wherever you want. The layout of the environments are detailed enough to give you specific hints on where to dig through and where to bash and where to travel to. But at the same time, at certain portions of the game, you don't have to follow those paths. You can go your own way. Yeah, there's obviously a certain way that the game wants you to eventually go to, but when you go to these different environments, you have the freedom to go anywhere, climb almost pretty much everywhere, and just explore to your heart's content. And you also have a few puzzles and tough enemies to vary up the exploration to make it a bit more challenging.
There are other things I absolutely adore about Donkey Kong Bananza, the redesign of Donkey Kong himself being one of them. Don't get me wrong, I still appreciate the traditional design up until this point with the downward brow, minimal expression which gives Donkey Kong an animalistic edge while still being expressionable enough to cater to families. I still like the traditional Donkey Kong design up until this point, don't get me wrong. It's just that for a game this bombastic, especially a game that demands an emotional bond with young Pauline, it was one of the best creative decisions in Nintendo history to redesign Donkey Kong specifically to cater to this specific game. And making Donkey Kong this wildly expressive really elevates the experience. You see Donkey Kong have these really expressive faces for different interactions throughout the game, whether he's picking stuff up, putting in a lot of effort, or sticking his tongue out with absolute joy at the sight of a banana to eat. There's a wide variety of different expressions he has. They're not only funny, but also makes him more relatable, which is quite fitting for this game, which has a bit more story going on compared to other Donkey Kong games. Another thing I love about the game is how you can pick stuff up and you can use the motion controllers that I mentioned earlier to aim on where to throw certain stuff, and how certain materials can at times have different scientific interactions. Like, for example, the way I found out that salt is a crucial aspect of one particular environment later on in the game. In fact, there's several puzzles that involve this throwing mechanic, which really opens up the variety of possibilities on how to traverse the different environments. And honestly, in regards to the throwing capacities in this game, I found that combining both the right control stick and the motion controls really helped assist my aiming ability. I found that the motion controls helped to aim at which part of this specific area to aim at, whilst the right control stick helped me to change the direction in which I was throwing. You can use either or, but I would highly recommend using both of them to take advantage of this control scheme. And speaking of control schemes, the way you control Donkey Kong is so buttery smooth in this game. Pretty odd to say given the fact that you're controlling this bulky gorilla, but it's true! It feels so satisfying to maneuver around this environment. It's buttery smooth, the way you can move around, roll around, pick up stuff, even surf on stuff. It's all so smooth, like Sonic the Hedgehog 3 smooth. It's chef's kiss. Along your journey, there'll even be mini challenges to test your platforming capacities. And you're also given a hand clap ability, which basically acts as an echolocation to help you find specific items. And as you upgrade yourself, you find that your capacity to hunt down treasures, pick them up, and to explore environments gets enhanced as you play along with the game. It's a game that brilliantly rewards your curiosity and helps you to improve your gameplay style as you go along.
And what makes this adventure that much more of a joy to play through is Pauline herself. Honestly, I think she might be one of the best video game companions I've ever experienced. The game does an excellent job at making you, the player, feel emotionally attached to Pauline. It's a rather clever storytelling device that all the characters except for Pauline use basic animal noises to convey themselves. So when Pauline is speaking a plain language for us to understand, as well as having her be as emotive as she is, it makes her all the more easily attachable. It makes her all the more easily relatable for the player. Of course, I've already established the fact that Pauline's singing ability grants Donkey Kong the ability to turn into various Bananza forms to get around different parts of the environment. But beyond that, she's just such a joy to have around, and she never comes across as annoying.
Hey DK, did you notice how ostriches are even faster than zebras when they run? Wait, is it rude to point that out? Forget I said anything. They're both fast. Good night.
I mean, think about it. It would have been so dangerously easy for Pauline to be just another annoying side character like that one character from Skyward Sword who just never shuts up and is so overbearing. That would have been so easy to do. But here, she keeps giving commentary that makes sense for her age and also makes sense for the different contexts around you. All that I've described is shaped up with a surprisingly compelling story about helping Pauline overcome her insecurities of public singing. And it makes the whole adventure incredibly investing. You want to see Pauline get more confident and overcome her insecurities. Yeah, the story itself isn't exactly Shakespearean or anything like that, but it's surprisingly investing on an emotional basis. Other notes, the music is absolutely great, especially the zebra theme tune.
Come on, baby, speed it up. 20 in a row, let's speed that, breathe it up. So Chrono, Z-E-E-Z. Zebra, zebra, zebra. Oh,
And the cherry on top for this utterly joyful experience are the high quality graphics, the brilliantly imaginative environments, nostalgic callbacks to other games, as well as the excellent implementation of motion controls. In that, the motion controls are optional. You can go through the entire game only using the button prompts on the Nintendo Switch 2 controller. And the game does an excellent job at helping you get used to the rather immense amount of options that the controls give to you. It might take a while for you to get adjusted to the way you move around the different environments, but the game constantly gives you the heads up display, not in an overbearing way, but just to remind you to say, this is the button prompt for this and that if you want to do it this way. Rather brilliant, actually. And to be honest, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually like playing with the motion controls. I like the sense of motion of actually moving my arms like this in order to dig, as well as shaking the controller sideways, as gimmicky as that is, to transform into the Bananza forms. Yeah, it can be rather gimmicky to try to do it sideways, and it might not always work perfectly, but it's so much fun. I find myself preferring the motion controls in combination with button prompts. And the best part is, you don't have to choose either one. You can either use the button prompt or the motion control at any particular time. This game isn't shoving motion controls down your throat just for the sake of showing off a gimmick. It's optional. It's there. You don't have to use the motion controls, but if you don't mind it, it elevates the fun. I mean, the motion controls are quite fun as with the whole vibration system anyway.
Now, if I did have any critiques for Donkey Kong Bananza, it's that the boss fights can be comparatively underwhelming. It's mainly because Donkey Kong is so overpowered in regards to his assets that it makes the boss fights look kind of a breeze. Don't get me wrong, there are some boss fights that actually, well, for lack of a better term, put up a fight, requiring you to keep on your toes to avoid getting hurt compared to other boss fights. But honestly, most of them, you can just go up to them, bash away with the punch mechanics, and just call it a day and move on to the next layer. It's kind of disappointing for a game this grandiose, with some exceptions.
Overall, Donkey Kong Bananza really does earn its acclaim to such an extent that I'm surprised that Nintendo didn't just heavily market this game as the main title for the initial launch of the Nintendo Switch 2 console. I mean, they did advertise it, and I can understand why they prefer to advertise Mario Kart World as opposed to Donkey Kong Bananza, because last time I checked, Mario Kart is one of the best-selling franchises of all time, and 3D Donkey Kong games, last time I checked, have not had the most successful track record in the past. So I can understand why they'd want to market Mario Kart, but in retrospect, they really should have emphasized Donkey Kong Bananza much more in the marketing in equal measure to Mario Kart World. It seems like Donkey Kong Bananza only got a brief glimpse in comparison to Mario Kart World. And obviously people were disappointed with Mario Kart World by comparison. It's not that Mario Kart World is a bad game, far from it. It's pretty fun in its own right. But compared to its predecessors like Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart Wii, it's fairly disappointing in comparison, and the open world feels more like a bloated, unfocused mess that's really missing a lot of potential. But with Donkey Kong Bananza, it implements its open world design in a really meaningful way. None of it feels like a waste. It feels meaningful. It rewards your sense of curiosity, and it encourages you to keep exploring. None of it feels like a waste of time. And in my opinion, at least, Donkey Kong Bananza might just be one of my favorite video games of all time. So much joy.
それでは本題です。
Now let's talk about the next game in this video, Kirby Air Riders. This is made by the legendary Sakurai himself, the creator of not only the Kirby series, but also the Super Smash Brothers series. Now, in the past of Sakurai's career, he developed a racing game for the Kirby franchise called Kirby Air Ride for the Nintendo GameCube. That game received a bit of a cult following, but never really caught on to the masses. So now, Sakurai has managed to develop a sequel with all that he's learned with him and his talented team. He took everything that he learned and implemented it for this sequel, Kirby Air Riders. Very clever title sequel. You gotta love it when they add an S in a sequel title. Very clever. If I were to describe Kirby Air Riders in rather brief terms, it would be in two ways. Number one would be basically Super Smash Bros. If it was a racing game. If you're familiar with Sakurai games, you can really sense the sense of flash and rhythm that's pretty similar to a Super Smash Bros. Game. The way that you unlock the characters and the vehicles, the way that the menu layout is displayed, the way that everything pops and flashes, the way that certain menu layouts are presented. It's very similar to the Super Smash Bros. Games, especially Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Another way I would describe Kirby Air Riders is that it is one of the most deceptively simple games I've ever played. What do I mean by deceptively simple? You see, the game design for Kirby Air Riders as a racing game is designed by minimalism. In this case, using as few button prompts as possible. Whilst there are a variety of button prompts that you can implement in various different contexts in the game, for the most part, your button prompts are restricted to the movement control stick and the B button. And that's it, for the most part. The game is less about a complex set of controls for different facets and more on your sense of timing with the deceptive simplicity of what few button prompts there are. Let me describe it to you. You don't really have a traditional acceleration button in this game. Your character moves forward automatically, and you can press back for brake, you can steer left and right, and you can press up and down for specific gliding segments and whatnot. And the B button has multiple facets. You can tap the B button for an initial attack, and as you're turning corners, you hold down the B button as you're turning with the left stick, and then release for a speed boost. Now, a speed boost via drifting is not a new concept when it comes to kart racers like the Mario Kart series. But with Kirby Air Riders, your boost drift button also happens to be your brake button. So you can't stick around holding it down for too long. You have to know the exact right timing on when to turn, how long to hold down the boost button for, and then when to release in order to get the boost started. It's less like you're driving the traditional go-kart you would expect from games like Mario Kart and Sonic Racing Crossroads, and more like you're deliberately driving these remote-controlled rockets, if that makes any sense. Because, my days, this game is so fast-paced in regards to the sheer insanity of the sheer speed of what can happen in this game. There are so many different enemy types to interact with, different power types to use, different explosions, and different control schemes and different methods of boosting and gliding happening seemingly all at once in various gameplays. But thankfully, the game does offer you this tutorial option to make you go through each individual gameplay asset one step at a time for you to get used to how the game works.
If I were to give a critique to Kirby Air Riders as a game, it's that the movement can be rather wonky at times. I know the whole point of the game is that it's supposed to be deceptively simple, and you're supposed to learn the exact timing with what simplicity of button inputs you have. I get it. But at the same time, it can be rather frustrating to try to move around corners and also try to pull off the spin maneuvers. I know the game encourages you to get good, and in retrospect, this critique is probably more of a nitpick from somebody who just needs to get good at the game. But at the same time, that certain aspect can be a rather frustrating entry point for people who are just trying to get into the game.
And as the game goes along, you'll gain access to a wide variety of characters and vehicles for you to customize your playstyle to eventually find the kind of playstyle you'd want to have, especially if you're planning to race online. And there's a variety of play modes. I would say the top ride gaming mode is probably the easiest to get into because you're viewing all the chaos from afar, so it's easier to comprehend from a top-down perspective. Air ride gets especially chaotic, and city trial can lead to a lot of chaotic battle requirements. And there is a story mode here, which seems probably a bit too good for a game like this, which probably enhances the experience. You know Sakurai, even for simple party games, he likes to have things cinematic. Seriously, there's even a whole new game plus system to this story mode, which enhances the engagement. Sakurai really pours in the effort here. So, in an overall conclusion, these games are worth getting the Nintendo Switch 2 console for. And this console in turn is worth getting as long as you get the right games, because I heard that Mario Kart World and Metroid Prime 4 and Metroid Prime 4 were quite disappointing in the eyes of the fans. But Donkey Kong Bonanza and Kirby Air Riders are still beloved to this very day. What do you think of Donkey Kong Bonanza and Kirby Air Riders? Have you played them? What do you think of them? Let me know down in the comments down below, and we'll get a conversation started about why these games are so fantastic for the Nintendo Switch 2. And what are your honest thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2 now that a whole year has passed by? And if you're watching this in the future, what do you think of the Nintendo Switch 2 now? Let me know down in the comments down below. In the meantime, Scott's Thinker signing out.
Look at us,
DK?
small, two
I love to sing more than anything.
Heart of gold, a wish come true.
I have this dream. Oh, maybe if we get to the surface, you and me,
Unbreakable.
we can make it more than a dream.
We're breaking through, down to the core. No stopping us, not anymore.
Get him, DK!
Inside the storm, I found the key.
Join the powerful Donkey Kong and the talented singer Pauline as they set out on an adventure to the fabled planet Core.